Well, hello everyone, and hope you're having a good time so far and enjoyed the keynote speech. We shall get this panel discussion started by introduction of our guest speakers today. So first, I would like to introduce Dr. Alexandra Wuttig. She was born in Bucharest, studied law and entrepreneurship in Germany, Austria, and Spain. She's a professor for entrepreneurship and innovation and a lawyer focusing on supporting women as startup investors and female entrepreneurs. Then we have Marie Weiler, who is the first woman on the investment team of Cottonwood Technology Fund, a Dutch-American venture capital firm specialized in high-tech and hard science. She is the chief legal officer of LegalCode and an honoree on the Forbes 30 Under 30 Europe list 2019 in the finance category. She's the first Dutch citizen who made it to this list. We also have Herbie Marchetti, who is a venture capitalist with over 12 years of experience. He has actively advised growth companies of FUNKE Digital Investments. He is a co-founder of the Pro Siemens One Accelerator, supported the expansion of over 30 digital companies. Herbie completed his studies in business administration at LMU Munich and Stanford University Graduate School of Education. Herbie continues to work part-time as an MBA lecturer. Then we also have Reza Malekzadeh. He is general partner at Partech, based in Paris. He's an active catalyst and leader in the French Silicon Valley tech community and an advocate of French and European technology innovation. He has 20 years of experience in various executive roles. He was one of the early VMware employees joining the company in 1998 and has also co-founded and successfully sold 2 startups. Reza holds an MBA from Paris. He's a mentor for the Impact Program as well as the Holberton School. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We will get right to business and start with the very first question, which is, what is impact investment and how is that different from other types of investments? So Marie, perhaps you'd like to take this one first?
Sure. Thank you for having me today. Impact investing is a way of measuring social, environmental, and governance impact besides your financial returns. What makes it hard to measure impact is that there are all kinds of ways of measuring the impact. So right now there is no industry standard when it comes to measuring impact. And that is something that the investment industry must continue to work on so we can all know to what extent an investment fund is doing impact investing.
Okay, thank you, Marie. Herbie?
Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. I'm very glad to be here. Impact for me is when vision meets execution for a good cause, so to make the world better. And traditionally, VCs are return-driven. So they focus on return on investment. And when impact is coming in, you need to balance return on investment and impact. So this balance becomes more important for me. And still, traditional venture capitalists are built for profit because carried interest itself does not reflect any impact yet. But there's good news. There's very good hope. 6% of all the deals produce approximately 60% of returns. So there's a lot of room for impact investments. And there's enough space for better capital contribution and allocation. So I think, and it is to be seen already in 2020, more and more impact investments are being done. And also more startup rounds are increasing, funding amounts are increasing, the number of rounds is increasing for impact startups. So there's a lot of new momentum for impact. And as Marie just said, also measuring impact versus measuring financial impact, there's a big gap still. And it comes down to the inner questions of life and work itself. So how do we create new jobs? How do we foster healthcare? How do we ease up and give access to better education? And there I see also a role of policy making.
Thank you, Herbie. Alexandra?
Thank you for having me. I would say a solid definition about what exactly impact investing is, it's not out there. Some of us understand investing in social entrepreneurs. Some of us understand investing, combining traditional investment with a purpose. And as Herbie just said, we can see a lot of movement right now. Just a few examples, BlackRock, for example, is moving towards a more impact investment, combining a traditional investment with a purpose. So we don't have philanthropists and traditional investment in a separate way. More and more, it's coming to combining these two things. BlackRock, UBS are just a few examples in the last years that are moving towards this direction. But yeah, for some of us, a solid definition that we can all understand under impact investing, it's not there right now.
Right. Thank you, Alexandra. And Reza, what is your take on the definition of impact investment?
I think, first, good morning, and thank you also for having me, and great event you guys are putting together. Congratulations. Just pursuing what was said before, I think there is no one definition. I view it as something having a double bottom line, meaning that in addition to a traditional financial return, you want some sort of other result as well. And that other result is something that can be defined by whoever is making that investment. And I think there is no universal definition of that, because it's going to be very different for different people, and different people have causes or things that matter to them in a very different way. So I think it's just a realization for me that if you want to have some sort of result that is not purely financial, it does not necessarily have to be a charitable organization. That you can actually build a business that is sound as a business, and that in addition to its financial returns can actually bring something solid as well. And that, to me, I would call probably impact investment.
Okay, thank you so much, Reza. So how do you all think that, impact investment can disrupt the financial world and influence innovation? Because there's a lot of focus and a lot of interest in impact investment, but it also seems like, as Marie pointed out earlier, we need to find some ways of measuring what this impact is, and it's open to interpretation. So how do you foresee this new vision that we're all talking about and thinking about impacting innovation in the future, and what opportunities do we have in innovation? So I think Reza, perhaps you want to answer this question.
Sure. I think if you think about it, and just pursuing my previous thought, meaning that you're going to have a number of very highly skilled and people with a lot of motivation who are going to build businesses to achieve some of the results they want. And that can only fuel innovation, right? Before, many years ago, when I graduated from school, people either went into the charitable organization world or went into, a big bank or a big consulting firm, etc. And there was no real middle ground. And then as entrepreneurship has taken rise, and people have started putting their innovation skills and their energy towards a project of their own, well, if that project has something meaningful as a result of it, then it can only benefit from all of that energy and innovation. And I'll give you an example. It's the Holberton School that I'm pretty involved with, and that we are also an investor in, as a caveat here. The Holberton School was started by two young entrepreneurs who said, we really want to disrupt the way we bring education and be able to bring it to people who are not necessarily getting it today. And in addition to all the efforts that had been done about, having quotas and things like that, they wanted to turn it inside out. And as engineers, they took an approach which was to completely anonymize the entrance exam and to do away with resumes, because even a resume for them has a bias. It has a bias of your name, and even if you take your name away, it has a bias of where you went to school, where you went to high school, etc. And so they made it a completely anonymous exam that has no requirement for you to put your resume. And the end result, 3 years in the program, is that you have a much higher percentage of minorities than in any university in the US. You have a much higher number of women, and it's computer science. You have a much higher number of Latino people, of African Americans, and all of these minorities that were having a hard time, despite quota systems, getting into schools, have been able to go and get actually a computer science degree and get a job as a coder. And so they put all of their energy and effort behind this. And so you can see how they were able to disrupt and innovate in a way that was meaningful for them. And by the way, it's a financially sound business, and they're not, a charitable organization.
I think that's a really good point that Reza makes, that impact investing is definitely possible with market rate returns. For example, one of our 4 pillars is the energy transition. That's what we invest in. And we believe that a new technology in the energy industry must be sustainable in order to be truly disruptive. Otherwise, it's already not innovative and not interesting for the industry. So this is a very good example of how you can combine the two with sustainability and being profitable.
So thank you, Reza and Marie. And Alexandra, what is your take on this particular question in regards to how we can influence innovation with the mindset of impact investment?
Maybe I say it this way: if we have the money, we have somehow the power to influence innovation in a way, because we set the rules. So, for example, if a VC set the rules that they are going to invest only, I don't know, in startups that use clean energy, then you force somehow the startups to come up with new ideas how they can use only clean energy. And this is somehow you are forcing them in a good way to come up with innovation or to change the way they are doing business. So maybe this is a way, if you are able to set the rules, because if you have the money, you are somehow able to set certain rules, you can influence the way they're going to do business in the next years. And this is what we can see. Maybe Marie knows it better than I do. For example, in Netherlands, there is a movement out of the VC world that they are they want to invest just in startups that have a certain number of diversity, that they are at least doing an effort to find people with a diverse background for their key positions. So in this way, they are trying to influence a change in the working world by investing only in startups that have these rules set. So maybe this is a way how VCs, and not only VCs but also banks and funds, etc., can influence the way we're gonna proceed our society in the future.
Yeah, I want to add on that. To change the financial world and also to bring more impact innovations, I think we need also more moral acumen in the industry. So by defining first strategic areas that are important for impact, then also, as Reza said in the beginning, every investment manager should have a compass, a path where to go and to contribute and to document their contribution to impact, also to real impact, not financial impact in terms of exit multiples. And each fund, as Alexandra pointed out right now, can have a rule and should closely monitor their goals. And if they have a certain kind of rule to at least distribute and allocate, let's say, 20 or 40% of their capital into impact investments, I think the world would be a bit better. So the financial world itself is mainly driven by demand and supply, I think impact is harder to measure. Positive impact is harder to measure, but we need to find a master plan to get it into the execution. So for me, impact investing is also a very good basis for impact innovation. And there are so many areas in media, fake news, the democracy is in danger. We need to have more facts, more knowledge, more education, health, well-being. We have so many areas that we can innovate on. And maybe AI also can help in that in a positive way. When it's ethical, when it's accountable, when it's protecting privacy. So there are many ways technology can help in this, I think, but it all comes down to us humans to give a compass to technology also.
Exactly. For example, one of our portfolio companies is Sarcos Robotics, and they have created an exoskeleton, like a suit, a robotic suit, that reinforces work safety. So people who work at an airport or in the army can lift up to 100 kilograms without feeling anything. And this is also a way of having a lot of impact, helping work safety, whereas impact investing often has this this image that it's only about the environment, which is super important, but it can be a lot more. So that's why I like to give the example of Sarcos Robotics, which is completely impact, but in a different way than most people would think. And actually the American Ministry of Defense became a major client of Sarcos Robotics this summer. So it shows that, even a traditional government can decide, yes, we want this because we want more safety for our army employees. So it works.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So I think we're ready for the next question, and this happens to be one, my favorite question, because our audience and also, our members and everyone is looking to, leaders out there in the industry, and especially investors, to help us with this. Closing the gap when it comes to increasing the number of female investors and female entrepreneurs. And we're actually very proud to have Herbie and Reza here with us today, because as Mujan mentioned earlier in the keynote speech, we all need to work together to complete our mission of closing the gender gap, and it cannot be done alone. So we're very happy to have you on board with us, and perhaps you can start by chiming in and letting us know how you envision that we can help more women become female investors and female entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I hope it's okay when I start, Reza. So I think Elizabeth was it telling us about sisterhood, and actually we need more brothers for you also. So, and I'm considering myself as a brother for you. I think it's not about the why we need to increase the female rates, it's about how. And unfortunately, looking at the situation right now, female investors and female founders are still very underrepresented. And most often it is said that men are showing more overconfidence when it comes to starting a business or founding a business. I don't think that is completely true when comparing them to women. But what you can see when you look at the facts is that only 15% of startups in the world, they are created by women only 15%, and only 15% of VC funding is allocated to female founders. So this is troubling me. This should all trouble us, and we need to set more gender parity in this world. In executive boards, in the workforce, everywhere we can see that. So I welcome every initiative like this also. I'm very grateful to be invited to this panel, to also push women forward into management positions and into decision positions, because we need more empathic networkers. We need more compassion in this industry. We need more open mindsets. The skill set, sure, the technical skill set, analytical skill set is also needed. But when I'm considering women I've been working with, I saw a lot of different approaches when it comes to decision making. So it's not only financial return driven, it's also going into more creation, more cooperation also, and in the end also on the focus on the better and on the greater good for us all. So when it comes to community serving or better healthcare benefits, better education, better jobs, making things better in a way that it is been leading with compassion. This is mostly driven by women. And I'm coming from a country with a female chancellor, Angela Merkel. And I think in general, we need way more women to lead for impact.
So, I obviously second what Herbie just said. And, I think that in the long run, though, this is a problem that you can only solve with long-term education. And I think that, the problem that you look at and say, well, look, in this area of technology, there's only this many female founders. But then if you back it up, you'll find that there's only a small percentage of women who went to that particular class of computer science and graduated in it. And then you just keep backing it up and you'll realize that the problem, in my view, lays far earlier in the process. And so it's much more about encouraging women, but minorities in general, to have access to the type of education that would lead to this type of career or starting a technology company. My particular field of investment is infrastructure technologies and cybersecurity. I think the percentages of women are even smaller here because fundamentally there's much less women who have been to that type of computer science class. And so what I would like to find is ways to encourage such that in the early ages, kids can choose what they want regardless of any type of gender bias. How can you make education, not have that type of gender bias? And what's interesting, I go back to the example of Holberton School, is the test they put in place is a test of aptitude, not pure knowledge. And so what they're testing the candidates is their aptitude to later on learn computer science. And when they do it in that generic form, they actually have a much, much higher percentages of women and minorities. And I think that's the type of long-term thing you need to do. And short-term, I'm a big believer in basically encouraging through examples. You have to put forward all the women who have succeeded or people of minority who have succeeded so that other people think, oh, if they made it, I can do it as well. And I think that showing success is a great way to attract future basically candidates. If on the cover of the magazines that the kids read, you see more female entrepreneurs and female CEOs and African-American entrepreneurs and CEOs, you're going to have basically a creation of a desire in the kids to go and aspire to become those as well. So I think there's both a short-term thing that needs to be done, but also there's a longer-term thing about education that you really need to think through so that no one feels left out of opportunities.
Thank you, Reza. And perhaps, Alexandra, you would like to also share your opinion with us about encouraging more women to get into the VC world. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. This is also my favorite topic. First, let me just say a few words that it's not about being just fair or being philanthropist. As Herbie just said, it's really about business. We have serious studies that have been done that show us that a diverse team, even as a diverse investor team or diverse entrepreneurs teams, do have better results. So it's really about making more money by having a diverse team. So it's not just by doing the right thing or because everybody's talking about female leadership and entrepreneurs and everything. So it's really based on business. And also, as Reza just said, you cannot be what you cannot see. So we really have to have more role models out there. We have to speak about what it is to invest in startups or as a female, and maybe a little bit of education in terms, it's not rocket science, and it's not just for, I don't know, just a few men, but really to go there and to explain and to show what it means, and also to make people understand that it's not about wanting to be biased, but if we have just male investors, they tend to invest only in male entrepreneurs because this is normal. We all hire people that are more like us. We all invest in people that we think that we can relate to. So it's really just human behavior, and this is why we need to increase also the number of female investors, because in this way we increase the number of female entrepreneurs, which leads also to they reinvest their money in society and education, and we lift the whole society by doing that. And at the end, it's really just business. It's pure numbers, better numbers if you have a diverse team with a diverse background, not just female and male, but really the more diverse minorities studied in different countries. They all have different way of taking decisions, and this way you find always the best solutions for the problems that you're trying to solve.
I see one of the questions coming in, if we could give some practical advice, some solutions on how to increase diversity. And if that's okay, I'd like to say something about that, because I am not an engineer and I work as a VC specialized in high tech and hardware. And that is possible because my employer, my boss, supports diversity, and he noticed that with my background and my work experience, I could add something to the team. There were already engineers and I had something different to bring to the table. So what I would like to say to all the people watching right now, do not think that you cannot work in tech just because you do not have a STEM degree. You can. I do it. I know a lot more women. You can always take classes, do courses, either during work hours or maybe in the evening. So take initiative. Do not think like, oh, I'm not suitable. There are all kinds of jobs in tech. Just look for what suits your talents and interests best. And most of all, what I think is incredibly important, pick your employer wisely. Work for someone who is your biggest fan, your champion, who supports you. When I was looking for a new job, I contacted my boss. I knew him for 4 years. I knew he was super friendly. I knew he was progressive and that he would really support me in my professional development. Whereas there are also, unfortunately, employers who do not care that much or maybe don't have the time or the commitment to help you move forward. So besides the tasks you're going to do, focus on the person who's actually going to be your boss. And always take initiative. I always say, at a starting point, I got a no, but it can become a yes. So I can ask to be on a panel. They can say no, but maybe they say yes. I try it. So that means you have more women and minorities on panels because they registered themselves. So never think like, oh, I'm not good enough. I don't have enough experience. You need to start somewhere. So contact an organization, apply for the panel, sign up for the course, become a volunteer mentor, and help each other.
Very, very good advice, Marie. Thank you. That is very true, that you don't necessarily need to have an engineering, a software, development background and so on. And I actually would like to share my own experience as someone who has been in technology for over 20 years. So when I graduated from university many years ago, there was only 5 women and 20-something men. And I've been in the boys' club for many, many years now, and I think part of the problem, or perhaps part of the solution, is that I encourage other women to have a can-do attitude and mindset. So I think a lot of times we are self-critical of ourselves, and I experience this on a daily basis with all the women that I work with. They are uncertain about their own capabilities and reluctant to step their foot forward and say, oh, I can do this. I've managed many different teams throughout my career, and usually the men who worked for me, I would give them a task where they had never, encountered such a scenario before. They didn't have the background for it. When I would ask them, could you do this? they would immediately say yes without hesitation. But when I ask a woman, can you do this? They're like, well, I really don't know, and I'm really not sure, but maybe I can't do it really well, but maybe I need some support. And like, you can do it. If you just put your mind to it. And nowadays, there's Google at your fingertips. You can get answers to pretty much anything online. And this is something, as Reza was talking about earlier with education. It needs to start at home. I have started with my own family, trying to educate. I have a daughter and a son, and I try to, educate them both equally, and also give them the opportunity to think that, the stereotypical types of professions are, it's not true, and it's for everyone. To give them a role model that they can see, okay, it is possible for women to become doctors, engineers, and be in technical fields, and it begins at home. It begins with education. I think all of you had great, fantastic points, and that is why, at the Women in AI, we are very much focused on education, and also supporting female founders, and this is what we're all about. And that's why, we've come to the conclusion that these two are, of the utmost importance for us in our, mindset for expansion, to focus on these areas, and without giving, the woman the education that they need to step forward and do these kind of technical things. It's difficult to say, okay, so we have an Accelerate program, let's get started, but then, we don't have too many people sign up for it. And even with our own organization, the Women in AI, when I, encourage people to come and join us and come and become a member, they say, well, I don't have any experience in AI. I'm like, but that doesn't matter. We have people on our team that are lawyers, policymakers, journalists, social media experts. We have all kinds of experts helping us, promoting us, supporting us in their own way on this mission. So it's very important to realize that you can contribute to this cause in your own way, whatever you are capable of. It is possible to help and do something about it, and we're not helpless in closing this gender gap. So that was my 2 cents, coming from many years of being in the boys club and trying to get myself not only myself up the ladder, but also to encourage other women to come up. And it's always been a struggle, and unfortunately, so many years later, we haven't really made that much of a progress, and that is very frustrating. And that is why I have actually become so passionate and so engaged with the Women in AI these past few months. It all started with the COVID-19 and us being stuck at home and not a lot of things happening. But then I became more and more passionate about it, because I found a home and a place where I can contribute and promote these kinds of activities with women, and hopefully, future generations will have more options and possibilities and opportunities. And it's not just good for the women themselves, but it's good for our economy. There is a lot of money to be made for the women, in the VC world, and from a financial perspective, and a lot of good can be done. So, yeah, I told you that was my favorite question. So. Thank you all. And I think the last question that I had in mind, but we've already touched on it a little bit. But before we go there, let's go and look at the audience questions and see, what is out there. I've seen a lot of messages pop up, and that is great. It seems like we have a very engaged audience who are looking for advice, who are chiming in, and it seems like we have people all the way from Uganda here present today. So this is really fantastic, and this is another thing that I'm really happy about with the world that has changed, and we have taken all of these events online. We have lost the personal touch and the one-on-one aspect of things, but what we have gained is more reach to others all around the world, from all over the place, and this is just wonderful and beautiful to experience. So I see some comments here from Helena Ahmadi, she's saying, why just the fingers all always pointed to women? Agreed with Reza. I agree that women are not still confident enough, but a high number of women are already in the state of confidence. But we have to admit the basement of men is much more prepared than women. I think we cannot, as always, just pointing out women. It's both sides, education for men and women. That is totally true. And that is why, you know, I mentioned that you know, it starts at home, it starts with both genders, and I'm not in favor of, you know, tipping the skew towards, you know, as a mother of both a boy and a girl. I think that we should not leave the boys behind, but help the girls get, you know, catch up and, you know, support them, but and encourage, you know, boys as well to demand that, and that's something actually I've seen that, you know, not only in my own children, that I see that we are making some progress in schools in Germany. I've noticed that actually boys are very much appreciative to have girls in all of their studies collaborating with them and seek that and even demand it if they don't get it. So that is very good and positive to see. So it seems like we do not have any particular questions at this point, do we? Or, okay, Valentina is asking, how do you address the issue that there are fewer women managing directors in VC funds? What needs to change to have an equal number at the top of VC funds as men?
I think what would be helpful if it becomes more transparent, what are the criteria on which a woman is judged, or any person within the venture capital firm, to make promotion. So I like I said, I'm totally into taking initiative yourself. So go to your boss and ask, what do I need to achieve? How do I need to develop myself in order to be ready for the next step? Once you know the specific criteria to move up the ladder, you can work towards that. What I personally do, and that's a tip that I like to share, is every single month I send my boss an email with my work results. Because it can be very obvious for you what you contribute to your organization, but maybe your boss is super busy and she or he did not have enough time to really look at your work. But by showing, in my case, I have a male boss, by showing him what I did and what I contributed, it's very clear the value I bring to the organization. And once I'm ready to ask for a promotion or a way to grow in my role, I can use that experience. So, and maybe if once a month is too much for you, maybe once every 3 months, once every quarter.
Yeah, that's a very good practical example, Marie. That's really good. And I always, you know, also kept a cheat sheet of all of my, you know, accomplishments, so that when I go into these executive meetings and I seek promotion or, you know, more responsibility, I have a list of all the things and if you don't do it for yourself, nobody does it for you. And I learned this the hard way. You know, after being working for a few years, I thought that, well, everybody sees what I do, everybody notices how much I contribute, but to be honest with you, they don't. You need to be your own manager of your own success stories, and when the time comes to share that and provide visibility into that, I know that some of that comes from being humble. You know, women are generally not such big braggers and they're more humble, but I think it's not bragging, it's just, you know, claiming your own place and your own rights and fighting for that and pursuing your own, you know, dreams and aspirations and so on. And it falls into that category rather than, you know, bragging. So a very good tip, Marie. Harshil and Stuti, I still don't see any questions posted on the stage, but I see that when I scroll up, there is a lot. So could you present to us a couple of questions, please?
One question is, because I can see, maybe I can read it and someone else can answer. How to make sure that the gender gap closing is a must and not just a nice to have when lobbying our executives. And another question is, where can I find a mentor or get mentorship for women in AI? So maybe someone else can
yeah, so I'll I'll rebound on the must-have piece, and I think, you know, we mentioned some of it. In my view, that's an important piece earlier on, which is it's basically a business decision, actually, and it's not just about women. I think that if you have a team of people who are all of the same profile, then the likelihood of getting different answers to a same problem is going to be very, very low. And you need to have people with different backgrounds, different perspectives, different cultural backgrounds, so that you can get different points of view on a question. And in business, it's very important to be able to think out of the box and to have answers that are differentiated. So to me, it just makes business sense to not have all white male in a team, because otherwise you're always going to get to the same things and the same results. And there's numerous examples out there in the press of particular cases where having people of a different background or a different gender have brought about different answers. So I think, you know, to answer the question, your executive team needs to understand that if they want to actually succeed in the world and be able to have a more successful offering or a more successful company, they need to have a differentiated team, so that that team can think through things in a very different way than just a monolithic way.
Very, very good point, Reza. What is, in your opinion, best concrete examples of contributing to your community regarding fixing the imbalance of women in tech? So as mentioned before, we, you know, and someone also asked about mentorship. So the best, you know, way is to seek a mentor. You know, just go out there. LinkedIn is a good platform. You can see, you know, where all the good, you know, people are, the industries that you want to work with, and you will be amazed how open people are in providing you some mentorship. You can join, if you know you want to join women organizations. There are so many, you know, organizations out there with the same mission to close the gender gap in technology, and just seek them, join them. You know, many of our members offer coaching and mentorship as well. That is also something that we are looking into, to perhaps, you know, creating some kind of a platform to enable that and facilitate that if we possibly can. So, but don't be shy to go out there and seek it for yourself, you know. Just it doesn't hurt to ask, right? So just, you know, find who you like and just reach out to them. Maybe you can go through a mutual connection and see if they can introduce you to that person that you want them to become your mentor. And you know, and also you can join all of the various programs in your local cities that are available to you in whatever part of the world that you are. And if you don't have any programs available to you, this is why we, you know, I was, you know, making a call to action in the keynote, you know, seeking people, whether they are members, partners, sponsors, government officials, anyone and everyone, to help us to help others. So that's you know, how we feel that we can help in this situation, is even if you don't have that available to you, we have the great tool of internet available at our disposal. And you know, we actually have kickstarted a learning opportunity program in Ireland, where the team is actually providing one-on-one coaching and mentorship to their community. So, you know, these are wonderful things that are happening, and hopefully we will be seeing more and more of that. Yeah, someone is just mentioning there's a Girls in Tech mentorship program. Yeah, there are many opportunities out there, and you know, to join us. Membership is free, and you're welcome to contribute in any possible way you can, or benefit any way that you find helpful to you. So
yeah, and people can always reach out to me as well. Find me on LinkedIn, connect with me, send me a message. I always try to help people, so feel free to reach out. My email address is also on my LinkedIn profile, so if you prefer to send an email, that's also fine.
Great, thank you. And yeah, I see that there's a question about what is the best way to train women for AI out of universities, especially deep learning and its new methods like GAN. So again, you know, I really think that there is no shortage. Like when we were looking at content, in our approach for education. Some of us were thinking maybe we should create our own content, but there's just so much out there available, and from GitHub to if you just Google it, there's so many platforms, to deep learning AI, to there's Coursera has so many courses available that are free, and you can just take those courses as an auditor if you want to, or just pay a small fee and you can get the certification for it. There are so many platforms and tools out there for you to get educated on. And you know what? For me, myself, to keep up with the latest and greatest, that's exactly how I did it too. I took these Coursera courses. I took the, Amazon AWS has free courses as well if you're interested to learn about their platform. There are just so many tools out there to do this, and just go out there and seek them. And somebody is saying, yeah, ACM, IEEE, they have mentorship programs, they have educational programs as well. There are many technical platforms, so there's no shortage of tutorials and videos and things like that. So go out there, and sometimes I feel like there's too much information, but it's good to have all of that at your disposal. And I also see in the comments that we have someone saying that they have developed a data science AI learning program for women at the Women AI Academy, and that is actually, yeah, I think, Naz, you are based in Munich. I recognize your name. Yeah, that is also a very good resource to look into. Check them out. So, are there any other questions that we have not gone through? I think I saw something about the mindset in traditional Japanese business. Oh, okay, found it. How to hammer home that gender gap closing is a must, not just a nice to have when lobbying our executives. And that's a very good question, because cultural influences, make a difference from one country to another, and how to address those cultural changes is something that it's not easy to navigate through. So perhaps one of you would like to take this question.
Yeah, I can take that question. I think in general, it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter how a person looks like. The religion doesn't matter. The gender doesn't matter. Even language doesn't matter. Yes, we are coming from a cultural background, but a human is a human, and actually we need more belonging and also inclusion, and see diversity as a result, as an outcome. So first, the connection. I liked what Marie said also before. To really connect with people, you can set yourself goals, connecting with at least 3 to 5 people a day on LinkedIn, and you will meet the mentors that you will need. And when it comes to a must of the gender gap, I think Reza explained a bit already. What we can see is currently that many societies are drifting apart, also mainly because of the misuse of social media. About fake news, the newsfeed only pushes for the loudest voice, not the clearest voice, and we need more education, independent from the gender gap or whether persons on social media are discussing religion or language differences. I think that all doesn't matter. We need to invest not only money but also more time into education, and it begins with ourselves. It begins with each one of us in our virtual conference here. So how can we contribute? How can we donate more time to building up a community, to help each other better? And how can we also serve as a coach and as a mentor? Because every one of us has the biggest strengths to teach others.
And maybe also excuse me. Yeah, go for it.
Mary. Sorry, Mary. I just wanted to rebound on something Herbie said, because I actually think that unfortunately the cultural background does have its importance. And having had the pleasure and chance to live in Silicon Valley, I found that there was far greater value in meritocracy there than there is here in France, or that I would see elsewhere. I mean, just look at how many CEOs of large tech companies are not white male. And then look at the CEOs of the largest French companies or the largest German companies. How many do you see that are actually not white male? And you'll see that there's a huge difference there. And so the culture aspect does impact. And I think that's probably the hardest thing to change short term. And again, I go back to, you have to learn to change it in the longer run. But if your kids evolve in an environment where you value meritocracy much more, then it's going to be easier to change those gaps as you move forward in time. Whereas, if here you look around and the bosses of all the largest French companies are all the same, it's going to be much harder for someone who's not like them to think, oh, I could become that one day. So I think culture has its impact, and it's sadly difficult to change, and it takes a long time.
Perhaps one strategy is to, point out to your employer what's in it for him or her to embrace diversity. So for example, when it comes to venture capital funds raise money from what we call limited partners. So the limited partners put money in the fund, and a limited partner could be a pension fund. And for example, in my own country, the Netherlands, right now, a lot of pension funds only want to put money in a venture capital fund when the venture capital fund has a gender diverse team. So in that case, one strategy could be to say to your more conservative employer, well, if we get a more diverse team, that's gonna lead to more money, because it's going to be easier to attract limited partners to put money in the fund. And if we do not have a diverse team, limited partners are going to stop putting money in the fund, so we're losing money. And I know this is not the moral argument, but some conservative people maybe need the more practical argument. So give it a try.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, it's back to the point of being able to vote with your wallet. And if we circle all the way back to where we started around impact investing, it's the same thing. As a consumer, you can choose to pay a little bit more for something that was done in a better way or with less, a negative impact than something else. And it's the same here. So I like that notion. Like, people who have the ability should vote with their wallet, because at the end of the day, if it moves the needle, then it's pretty good.
Very, very great point. And Alexandra, as someone in Germany promoting, this mission, what is your take, and how do you think Germany is doing in comparison? I'm curious to know what your take is on. I know as a country with a woman as a leader, we are more progressive in that sense. And as someone who has worked in different countries of Canada, United States, and Germany, I find myself not so much in the boys' club as I did in other countries. But I'm curious to know what your take is in terms of how are we really doing here, and how we could improve that and become better.
Well, I think yes, it might be better as in other compared to other countries. But the bottom line is, if you look, as Reza said, at the major companies in Germany as well, you will only find a male-dominated environment. So yes, it's getting better in terms of culture. I know also women that, for example, got offered amazing jobs, and as you mentioned before, they don't trust themselves. So you get a job offer, and the reaction is not, oh yeah, it's cool, let's get on it, I'll figure it out. It's more like, oh, I don't really know if I'm able to do it, and I have kids and everything. So it's also not just the environment or the cultural environment or the society, it's also ourselves that we tend to do not believe that we are able to do it. And I saw this several times in Germany as well, because here maybe, it's also when you have kids, Also, people think, okay, she will not be able to do it. She might want to stay more at home rather than have a leadership position. So we still have a long way to go, but it's getting better. Yeah, I think in Germany the fact that we do have a female leader on the top of as a chancellor, it's not really reflecting the day-to-day working environment that we have. This is my experience right now, but we are getting there, and I can see a lot of the good thing, and this is really something that is happening in the last years. I can see a lot of initiatives that are starting to promote diversity in not just about women, but also about other minorities. And this is something really, really good, because it might not change in the next 2 years, but I do hope that my kids, my daughters will have a different working environment that we have right now.
Yeah. Thank you, Alexandra, and it's great to have, role models that people can see, such as yourself. You're doing fantastically in all these different areas of being a professor, having kids. Here you are chiming in all of these important topics and questions, and I really want to thank you, Herbie, for all your insight and everything that you shared with us. Reza, for all of your experience that you've shared with us. Marie, thank you for all the advice that you've given and your openness to get in touch with people. I really had a fantastic time. I can't believe that we only have 2 minutes left. I was kind of thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to, fill in all the time, and it seems like we've had some very nice conversation in the chat. Before we run out of time, I do want to say that I just saw that our ambassador in Sweden has just mentioned that there are some educational programs that they are working on, and to reach out to Elena Kell. She's our Sweden ambassador, so please do contact her if you would like to know more what is going on in Sweden. And we also have someone by the name of Hani Vahabi who is mentioning that she has difficulty engaging men. I think she is now connected with Elena, and they will take it up from there. So thank you everyone for being so engaged in this topic. I really appreciate everyone's time. Go out there, have a blast, enjoy the other sessions, and just have a good time. And thanks again for all of the speakers, and thank you to all of the committee that has helped put this summit together. And see you later. Keep in touch.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.